My lords, I want to begin by thanking those who have made me so welcome to your lordship's house, not least those who hail from Lincolnshire itself, including several proud doorkeepers who either live in the county or have served there in the armed services. We share a love for our historic county, the beauty of landscape and building, not least Lincoln Cathedral, about which you may have heard from the noble Lord, Lord Cormac. The pleasure of its food. I'm a bigger man now than I was when I went there. And most importantly, we appreciate the rugged, independent-mindedness of its people. So thank you as well for those who've said warm words of encouragement already in this debate. I have been Bishop of Lincoln for over 6 years. My predecessor, Dr. John Saxby, is an expert in the work of the Danish theologian and philosopher Kierkegaard. And one of Kierkegaard's most famous sayings is this: life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. And trying to understand my life backwards now, I can see that providentially much of who I was and what I did before coming to Lincoln in 2011 prepared me for the role in which I now inhabit, and will inform and I hope guide the contributions I hope to make to your lordship's house. I come from working class roots in the former steel town of Consett in northwest Durham, a town that's only there because of the steelworks, the place where all the men in my family worked. I found faith and vocation to the priesthood at the age of 13. It was a surprise to me, a surprise that hasn't exactly left me yet, that God was calling someone like me to be a priest. This vocation took me to South London, to Hampshire, to Portsmouth, where the journey back to my roots began. Portsmouth, though 350 miles south of Consett and a little warmer, has been described as a northern city on the south coast, a reminder that the north-south divide is as much a conceptual division as a crude geographical line. There I was able to begin to engage with the issues of poverty, inequality, and low educational attainment that reappear now where I currently serve. My journey back to my roots, or as we members of the northeastern diaspora call it, home, continued with a national job in Church House, Westminster, overseeing the provision of ordained and lay ministers across the Church of England, which sensitised me to the challenges facing the communities and the churches in areas on the edge, the North East itself, Cumbria, Cornwall, Herefordshire, and of course Lincolnshire. And that brings me to where I am today in the role I play, and to the Chancellor's spring statement. There is some things to welcome in what was announced, what has been called the light at the end of the tunnel, a modest improvement in economic forecasts, and the prospect of an increase in spending on and investment in public services, which will be good news to the people of Lincolnshire, especially if what is devoted to Lincolnshire addresses the challenges we actually face. Lincolnshire is formed by its history and its geography. In the words of one recent book, we are prisoners of geography. The impact for Lincolnshire of 50% of its population living in sparse rural settlements is huge. Size does matter. And in Lincolnshire, this is expressed in challenges faced by the health and education services, not to mention the threat climate change poses to Lincolnshire, which the Most Reverend Prelate, the Archbishop of Canterbury, sees in his recent book as having, quote, significant bite, not only for our generation, but also for those as yet unborn. But Lincolnshire is not all rural or flat Fens. There are communities like Grimsby and Scunthorpe, Lincoln itself and Boston. And in those areas that voted heavily in favour of Brexit, there are the usual challenges of urban life, and there are more to come when the full impact of welfare reform is experienced. Unless economic policy articulated in this statement is directed as much towards the interest of these communities as it is to the more prosperous corners of our country, we shall be failing in our duty to create a fairer and more integrated society. Already I see in these communities a sense of alienation from the metropolitan elite. In the typology of David Goodhart's really helpful book, the somewheres resent the anywheres, and the anywheres don't understand the value of the somewheres. This is not new, my lords. The Lincolnshire Rising of 1537 and the Pilgrimage of Grace that followed were obviously about, first of all, a commitment to the old religion, but perhaps also driven by the resentment that King Henry VIII and his commissioners were in fact the rich elite from the south who had come to plunder their assets. The king made his views on Lincolnshire clear. It is, he said, the most brute and beastly shire of the whole realm. And he saw that the perpetrators of the rising were cruelly executed. My lords, in hoping to avoid a similar fate, it is nonetheless my sincere wish to be a small but proud voice for the successors of those good people of Greater Lincolnshire in this place.
Yeah.